how old school.
This guy came out with a tune called Me and Mrs. Jones, which went gold. And then he came back with another record to follow up to that called Am I Black Enough For You? It died. Well, it was just the wrong time for that kind of a record. So all of them didn't go. But I'm mentioning the hits. That's what I'm doing.
As CBS gets into black music and then the other major labels get into it as well, does that have any kind of negative impact on the Motowns and the Stax and the T-Nex, or is the tide lifting all the boats?
I would say the tide lifted it in all of them. I think it put more emphasis on black music. I think it put the spotlight on crossing that product over into other markets. Warner Brothers, for instance, a guy named Tom Draper, who we both started out together in this business, and they formed a black music division, which is very, very successful also. Then eventually, all of the major labels created their own black music divisions, every last one of them. And they started using that blueprint that Harvard had put together. They used that as a blueprint.
And so CBS was kind of the pioneer that the other labels followed?
It was no question about it. It was no question about it. As a matter of fact, even the guys that on my staff, other labels, we even vying to hire them away. That took place as well.
Did you consider yourself a pioneer with the work you were doing?
Well, you know,
maybe innovator is.
No, at the time, you don't think about all of that stuff. You know, you just do what you got to do, and you do what you enjoy doing, and none of it was ever a chore to me. And the most fabulous thing about it, now working on a national basis and also working on an international basis, fortunately for me, I was able to take my wife along with me on a lot of those trips, with her being a school teacher by profession. But when school was out, she would accompany me. Now, it was never necessary for the two of us to say that we're going to take a vacation, because every trip was a vacation. It was just an enjoyable experience.
What were some of the other challenges that you did face? I mean, you talked about the separation between the white and black, the urban and the top 40, but were there other challenges?
Well, I would say one of the biggest challenges was there when I first started at CBS. Now, all of a sudden, this black guy comes in and looks like Clive Davis, and Bruce Lundvall, the head honchos at CBS, is giving this guy all this green light and all this power. You create this big, huge staff, and that company, CBS, was somewhat of a racist company internally. Primarily, your top executives were the guys that had been promoted from the field as the top sales managers in the field. So they were promoted into the home office on a national basis, and they brought those same prejudices with them that were inborn. So consequently, they didn't see any need to put all that emphasis on black music. It's no big deal. But one thing about a salesman, when that product starts coming, and that retailers, that consumer, starts buying those records, and those commission checks starts increasing, it changed a lot of minds. So that challenge there was overcome very, very rapidly.
Success has a way of overcoming a lot of challenges.
No doubt about it.
Why was it important to you all these years later to publish the Harvard study and get that out into the wider world?
Well, I sort of evolved into it. Right now, I've written 3 books. The first book that I wrote was called The Anatomy of a Record Company, and I was teaching a course out of California State University, and that was the title of the course, The Anatomy of a Record Company. And my students suggested to me, Dr. Westbrooks, we don't have a textbook. Why don't you write a textbook? So that's what I did. I wrote a textbook. So that first book, The Anatomy of a Record Company, basically was a syllabus from my class, those students out there. And then the second book, which I wrote was written within the past 5 years, is called The Anatomy of the Music Industry, how the game was and how the game has changed. I talk about old school music in that particular book, And then I talk about the state of music today. But primarily, a kid can create a hit record in his bedroom with a little small machine. Whereas in the past, the major labels were the gatekeepers. And if they didn't let you in, you didn't get in. I don't care how good or how talented you were. If they didn't let you in, you didn't get in. So consequently, these youngsters, they were so talented. They created their own means. And then they came with these little machines in their bedroom and started creating the hits. Eventually, they put out a lot of record companies out of business. But they allowed it to happen because they were so strict in who they would allow in.
Is that a good thing for the times, or I mean that's just the way it was? But did that end up denying opportunities to artists, like you say, that could have had a hit had they been able to get past the gatekeeper?
It denied great artists years ago, some good artists. It denied them that. But now the state of things where they are here right now, once that change came about, where the artists, that creative person, start controlling their own career, to me it was a God-sent thing, because they are the creators, and now they're getting a bigger slice of the pie, and they should, because it's all coming from them. They have a talent, so that's the way that it should be.
As sales of music by black artists grew in the 1970s, it was really kind of creating its own sort of economy, wasn't it? I mean, you had more people like you getting jobs within the industry. You had concert promoters, and you had record store owners, and you had people at recording studios. It seemed like it was creating a lot of opportunity for people in a wide range of jobs.
Well, it was a creation of several wealth classes. There was the retail outlets that eventually some of them became one-stops. There were the recording artists that were now getting a bigger piece of the pie in terms of record sales. There also were those black artists that were being signed to major labels was getting a legitimate advance. So those things had not been happening in the past. There also was black lawyers that were now representing these artists. They were making more money. There were also concert promoters that were primarily promoting black acts only. A guy out of, I think his name was Perry, out of Atlanta, Georgia. Dick Griffey became promoting at one time. So they were having these top shows all over the country. So it created a completely new wealth class. As a matter of fact, one of the guys out of that early promotion class, I think he's the manager of the top black prize fighter in the country right now. I can't think of his name, but he came from the promotion staff, from the promoters staff, from concerts all over the country. And it just created a new wealth class. It's just different. I just do what I do, and I was enjoying it. And it was never a day when I didn't want to go to work. It was never an assignment that I got that I thought was a chore. So it was an enjoyable kind of thing. There was a principal of my high school. That was Professor Black T. Hunt. And that was one of the comments he would always make to us as black students. You've got to run faster. You've got to jump higher. And that was his lesson. And that's what I always intended to do. I ran faster and I jumped higher.
What do you want the visitors who come there to take away about the music industry in general, and what you and your peers helped to do for black music in the 1970s and 80s?
Well, when they come there to that museum and they see all these gold records and the achievements of their favorite recording artists, and I'm more than sure they all will be there, but just bear in mind that there was a bunch of black executives that was in the background pulling all of those strings and dealing and manipulating and making sure that that product, those records, would be heard and exposed on a national basis. These were guys that were tall in the field. Some of them at the beginning were making very, very little money. very little money, but they were working for you to get those artists out there so you could hear that product. And as you admire and scream and yell with that artist up there on the stage, just remember there was someone, male and female, in the background making sure that they have the right appearance, they're dancing, they're making the right steps, they're singing the right songs, they're paired with the right producer, and now you're able to enjoy it. So take advantage of all that as you observe all of these great recording artists throughout this entire facility.
Come on. One nation under a roof, getting down just for the funk of it. One nation and we're on the move. Stop us now. Hey, 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 hey. Come on. Gonna give you part of what you're funkin' for. Hey, I beat the family now. I got a question.